In all my years in being a Chicago Bears fan, I don't think I've ever seen a team that was as bad that gave me as much pain as a team that we are seeing now. And that is saying a lot because we've seen teams led by Mark Trestman and Phil Emery and Jay Cutler lose by 50 points to the Green Bay Packers. Mediocre season with Jay Cutler, John Fox, and Ryan Pace. And an all-too confident head coach in Matt Nagy and his quarterback Mitchell Trubisky lose those big games and whiff in the playoffs. We figured that we had Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus in January of 2021 that something would change, that we were going to rewrite history. Ryan Poles came in here working with the Chiefs, winning Super Bowls. He was a former offensive lineman, and he had helped rebuild a below-average offensive line into one of the league's best, getting Creed Humphreys, Trey Smith, Orlando Brown, Joe Tooney, and we figured he was going to do the same thing here in Chicago. Take a line that had a practice squad center in Sam Mustipher and make them into one of the league's best. Then, help unlock Justin Fields' talent and also bring back that Chicago Bears football. That 85 Chicago Bears football, that championship Chicago Bears football. And to help him, he brought in Matt Eberflus. And at the time, this was a move that came in with a lot of question marks. Flus was not that hotshot candidate that Dable, McDaniels, which were. It was pretty much out of nowhere and a typical Chicago Bears move. But we had all figured that maybe this might be Sean McDermott 2.0. I mean, both of them had built elite defenses. Flus took the closest 30th ranked defense and made them 16, later to an AFC championship, and his defense was always known to be hard-nosed, tough, and physical, and he was going to bring that here in Chicago. Not only that, but he also developed guys like Kenny Moore into stars, and he did all of this without having barely any stars other than DeForest Buckner. By all means, Flus was the opposite of what Matt Nagy was. He called plays, he developed guys, and he was going to bring a brand new culture to Chicago. Somebody in the first press conference, he talked about the hits method, hustle, intensity, takeaways, smart play, and the Bears want to take the nut and not give it back. This was something that we had never seen before. A mentality of toughness and accountability, something that we really lacked in that Matt Nagy era. And to really help with that, he brought in an all-star staff in Luke Getsy, who may or may not have been a spy from Green Bay. He brought in Alan Williams, who had turned Kenny Moore into a star. He brought in Tyke Tolbert, who worked with Odell Beckham Jr., Chris Morgan, who had built strong offensive lines in Pittsburgh. And from a coaching standpoint, this team was loaded. But from a roster standpoint, we sucked. We had one of the worst rosters. In fact, the worst in the league. We had EQB, Dante Pettis, Darnell Mooney catching passes from Justin Fields, and a makeshift offensive line that had a fifth-round left tackle in Braxton Jones starting, a practice squad center in Sam Mustipher, Cody Whitehair, Kevin Jenkins, Riley Reeve starting, and we'd all figured that in the 22 season, this would be a tank year, where we could tank and get premier talent, and that happened. To our surprise, we got the number 1 overall pick, and after seeing what Justin did, nearly beating Lamar Jackson's rushing record, nearly beating the Bills and Eagles, we decided that we had to keep him, and that really wasn't worth it going after a guy like CJ Stroud or Bryce Young because they weren't going to be that much of an upgrade. But what we did need was capital. So we traded our number 1 overall pick to get insane capital, pull off a robbery, and we traded that to the Panthers, getting a 2024 first round pick, a 2025 second round pick, and DJ Moore. And then at the offseason, we literally went all out. We signed TJ Edwards, Jermaine Edmonds, Andrew Billings, Nate Davis, and by all means, we were going all in. And then in that draft, we got Darnell Wright. This was a team that was going to make the playoffs, that was going to contend, until the writing on the wall showed. In training camp, we saw reports that Justin Fields and that offense was inconsistent, partly due to the offensive line really struggling, play calling still being an area of concern, and worst of all, Nate Davis, the guy that we signed to a 3-year, $30 million contract, was missing practices due to a family tragedy, which in hindsight is okay. You know, it's excusable, but you really need an offensive line to come together to build that chemistry to have a successful offense. And in preseason, it was one of the same story. The offense struggled, and we knew this was going to be a long season. And that happened. the Chicago Bears came out losing 2 straight games to the Green Bay Packers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then right before the Kansas City Chiefs game, our DC, Allen Williams, resigned and we lost by 31 points to the Chiefs. Then, in the Broncos game that we had a 98% chance of winning, we still found a way to lose. And that season would end in typical Bears fashion. You would win against bad teams like the Commanders, but then Justin Fields would get injured against the Minnesota Vikings and he would miss 4 games. Then he would come back on Thanksgiving against the Lions and put us in a position to win. But we still found a way to lose. Then next week against Minnesota on Monday Night Football, we really came out flat, and then in that fourth quarter, we came alive to beat the Josh Dobbs Minnesota Vikings team. And then we finished off our bye winning 3 out of our last 5 games. But when you really look at it, it's not that impressive. Sure, the Lions game is impressive, but we beat a rookie head coach in Arizona and a soon-to-be fired head coach in Arthur Smith in Atlanta. These wins gave us short-term happiness, short-term dopamine hits. Sure, we started the season losing 4 straight, but these wins were meaningless and only extended to stay that a head coach had a 5-19 record in 1-score games and 3 games that he lost in which we had a 90% chance of winning against the Lions, Broncos, and Browns. And a head coach that decided to keep the worst OC on the roster in Luke Getsy, whose offenses were getting exposed time and time again. Most of us had saw the writing in the wall. We had seen that Flus was not going to cut it, that he had to go, and that this was a perfect time for you to get QB development right. Do what you didn't do for Mitch or Justin Fields, and line up your quarterback and your coach in the same timeline so that they both grow together. Not to mention, the Bears could have gone out there and hired a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who won everywhere that he had gone. He won in Michigan, he won at Stanford, and in the NFL, he won with the 49ers, leading them to a Super Bowl. Or they could have gone and hired someone like Ben Johnson, who was interested in this job and had made Jared Goff into a premier quarterback. Dave Canales, who had helped Baker Mayfield become an MVP. Really wanted anyone, but it was because we all knew it was going to end in disaster. And we all believed those reports that it said Ryan Poles had only hired Flus because he was on the short list of coaches that he had to hire, along with Jim Caldwell and Dan Quinn. And the only reason he hired him was because him and Flus were best friends because they had the same agent in Trace Armstrong. And we had figured that, hey, maybe Ryan Poles knows Flus is not an elite head coach and that he needs an offensive guy. But for some reason, Ryan Poles did not do that, citing
at head coach.
Yeah, everything I talked about in the beginning, just in terms of his leadership and stability, I really think that the head coach needs to be able to captain the ship when the seas are when the seas have storms, and really keep everything settled.
We all knew that this was going to end in disaster, and that happened. But what we did do good was we fired Luke Getsy, Andrew Noko, Ty Torbert for the offensive struggles. Our running backs coach, David Walker, was fired earlier for workplace violations. To fix all of this, we brought in a whole new staff. Chris Beatty to be the wide receivers coach, someone that will work with Keenan Allen, Chad Morton, who had worked in Seattle, develop guys like Kenneth Walker, Thomas Brown to be our passing game coordinator, Kerry Joseph to be the QB's coach, and at our 2 biggest positions, DC and OC, we brought in Eric Washington to be the DC and Shane Washington to be the OC. Now, this was a major upgrade over what we had before, but both of these coaches came in with some major question marks. Washington in Seattle, while he did have efficient and top offenses, he was one of those guys who failed to adapt to man-to-man coverage. He was a great creator, but he failed to adapt and adjust to plays as needed. And we saw that pretty evidently into what Jackson Smith-Njigba had to say at the draft combine on CHGO.
Bears fans are super interested about the offensive coordinator coming in, Shane Waldron. What can you tell them about who they just hired to try to get this offense where it needs to go?
This is live?
Yeah, we're not live. We're not live.
I'm playing. Good luck to y'all. I mean, he's a great person, great offensive coordinator. I was very lucky to have him my first year. Learned a lot from him.
And Washington in Buffalo was a defensive line coach. He never really called plays, and it was more of a Sean McDermott show than him. Thomas Brown, our passing game coordinator, really struggled in Carolina, but it was Carolina, so we had figured that, hey, maybe things would change here. The biggest task at hand was to fix the offensive struggles, but more importantly than that, who would be the quarterback? Because of the Panthers trade, the Bears now had the number 1 overall pick. and they had a chance to go and draft the next Patrick Mahomes, a once-in-a-generation quarterback. Or they could trade that pick, get a haul, and keep Justin Fields. But it was pretty evident that based on the 3.5 years with Justin, with him really failing to prove that he could be a franchise quarterback, that it just wasn't going to happen. It was just a star quarterback drafted at the wrong time, and Post wanted his own guy. So he traded Justin to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 6th-round pick, really saying that, hey, I failed this quarterback. But what he did do was he's like, hey, I want to build a team around this quarterback and do something that this team has never done before. So we brought in guys like Gerald Everett, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift. And on defense, we already had Montez Sweat, who we got from the mid-season trade deadline, Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Dexter, Brisker. So it was already an elite defense on paper. It only got better when we got Darrell Taylor from Final Cut. This was a team that had a, on paper, great offense, a great defense. And then it only got better in the draft when we drafted Caleb and also looked into getting Romo Dunze, Keenan Bobby, Torrey Taylor, and Austin Booker. As you can imagine, the vibes were off the charts. We were hyped. We had a generational quarterback. The next Larry Fitzgerald in Romo Dunze. More, Keenan, still an explosive offense. We were going to go all in. And for the very first time, we even got featured on Hard Knocks. The only thing that was really stressing us out was coaching. We had seen Flus fail time and time again. But all of a sudden, this brand new Flus walked in, rocking his beard, and we had figured that something was going to change. We had a mastermind in Shane Waldron, and in camp, we had seen how good this offense was. Sure, they struggled with a rookie quarterback, and in preseason, they had struggled against the Bills and Bengals, but it was preseason. You know, those slow starts didn't matter, and we figured that once the season started, the offense would start to gel, and we would come together. Long story short, that didn't happen. We struggled against the Titans, failing to score a single offensive point, only to have our defense and special teams carry us. And then against the Texans, Caleb Williams was sacked 11 times. Then against the Colts, we had our best offensive performance, scoring 16 points. Caleb and Rome got their first TDs, but that offense was predictable. It's not more evident than us running an RB wheel on the goal line, to which the coach sniffed easily. And we knew that something had to change after that. Teams knew that if they run man-to-man, raw pressure, they could cook this offense and hold us to 0 points in the first half. So we had player meetings before the Rams game to address our slow starts to start games. And that worked because the Chicago Bears scored 24 points against the Los Angeles Rams. Things started to turn a corner. In our next 2 games against the Panthers and Jags, we scored 35 plus points. All of a sudden, that hype from early in the season was back. Heading into that bye, we were believing we had the perfect chance against the Washington Commanders to go out and prove it. And the NFL thought so too, because they had flexed our game to 325. It was going to be Caleb versus Jaden Daniels. And with over a week, we just came out flat. We failed to score until it was 35 seconds left in the third quarter, with DeAndre Swift breaking out a run for a rushing TD. And then on the game-winning drive, Caleb found DJ down the sideline for a huge game into our Roshan TD, and there was only 27 seconds left with the game being 15-12. All the defense had to do was stop them. But Jaden Daniels found Terry McLaurin for a huge game down the sideline, and we started to play prevent defense, and that led to Jaden Daniels find Noah Brown for a Hail Mary TD. And this was kind of the beginning of the end. Things would only get worse from here. Against the Cardinals, we scored just 9 points, and against one of the worst teams in the Patriots, we scored just 3. And something had to change after this game. So after being nearly forced to go out Shane Waldron and promoted Thomas Brown, our passing game coordinator, to offensive coordinator, all of a sudden, Chicago Bears' offensive issues seemed to be fixed because we scored 16 points against the Green Bay Packers. We could have ran another play. We could have gone to the right hash line. We could have gone to the 37-yard line. But no, we decided to kick it from the 46-yard line from the left hash, and the kick was blocked. And then against the Minnesota Vikings, we scored 27 points. We scored a TD, we got an onside kick, and we got a field goal to take this into overtime. But the offense struggled on the play. There were some play calling issues. The defense, for some reason, decided to let the Minnesota, leading to our third gut-wrenching loss. And just when we thought things could get any worse. It got worse against the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. After Caleb put the team on his back, scoring 3 second-half kitties, all the Bears had to do was when Caleb went down with 36 seconds left, call a timeout, and then get into field goal range because it was 3rd and 26. And maybe run a short pass or a short run because a few more yards to go to get us into that range. But Flus decided to do none of that. I'm right now. Chaos ensued and we failed to use our last timeout. This was a disaster, but beyond that, there was no way that Flus could survive this. This was a 4th straight loss, and it was 100% on him. The locker room, Jalen Johnson, all the players went off against him, and it was pretty chaotic, and it was clear that he had to go, that we had to make history. And on Friday, after his last press conference, we fired him 2 hours later. For the very first time, the Chicago Bears fired a head coach in season. This job was just way too much for Flus. It led to micromanagement after micromanagement. He was way too conservative for even a high school team, and Chris Brown was elevated to head coach. A move that we figured would be like Antonio Pierce 2.0 and really bring a change of heart. But that's not what happened. Things got even worse. We've had 3 straight blowouts: 49ers, Vikings, and Lions. It's a pretty interesting time in Chicago. The Bears finished off the season losing to the Seahawks, a game that was pretty disastrous that the offense looked to take 10 steps back, a game in which Caleb did not really look himself. But then, against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau, Caleb led us down to a win, finding a way to beat the Green Bay Packers at home, showing us why we drafted Caleb at the number 1 spot. And that game kind of put a sign that things are starting to change in Chicago. Because after interviewing 30 coaches, the Chicago Bears decided to go and hire, for once, the best head coach in Ben Johnson. Something that I've never seen in my lifetime. For once, going and getting the best guy. A guy that, in my opinion, is the next Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Kevin O'Connell. Someone that is going to bring wins and an offensive firepower, an offensive flair that we have never seen before. And we've only seen teams like the Chiefs, Rams, 49ers, Vikings that. But now it was our turn. Not only that, but bring us back to the days of Mike Ditka, having a Hall of Famer head coach. Somebody that is going to change the landscape, change what it means to be a Chicago Bears fan. This season was pretty bad in terms of how it could have gone. Probably the worst season that we have ever experienced. But it is over, and we are entering a new time. And I want to know your guys' thoughts. What do you think this season went wrong? What do you think that Eberflus went wrong? What do you think about Ryan Post? What do you think about Ben Johnson? Let me know that in the comment section below. And don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more content like this. And with that all being said, bear down.